Hello everyone, it's a new day. Good morning and welcome back to Varagist HQ. I want you to pay attention to this submission coming from Reverend Moses. Especially if you truly want to learn and you want to know the history of this grant that we all are waiting for. This video is for you. So don't skip any part of it so that you grab everything that is in it. You'll be able to know where it is coming from and the reason why some people are angry about this whole delay. So please pay attention to him and grab your fee from it. I'll be right back.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, my colleague CEOs. Good morning, the grand ecosystem. Good morning, all grand handlers and comrades in the system. Today is the 17th day of October 2025. And I'm happy to announce to you that today is the United Nations Poverty Eradication Day celebration. This day is recognized by the United Nations as the day it has set aside to fight the monster poverty. This day was accepted to be the Poverty Eradication Day by the United Nations some decades ago. And because of this fight against poverty, the United Nations went into so many programs to make sure that this monster called poverty was defeated. If you remember vividly, the Millennium Development Goals projects that were spread in Nigeria during the presidency of President Olusegun Obasanjo from 1999 down to 1997 was to aim at reducing the rate of uneducation, illiteracy, and putting giant stripes on ground to make sure that poverty was defeated. Years after, poverty is still ravaging African nations, poverty is still ravaging Asian nations, poverty is still ravaging a lot of countries. Needless to mention, one of the most African nations, Madagascar, who through welfare, the masses rose up to their responsibility and sent the government packing. Poverty is a disease. Poverty knows no religion. Poverty knows no size. Poverty knows no tribe. Everybody, in as much as you are living in the third world, we are confronted with this giant called poverty. Nigerians and CEOs, my colleagues in grant ecosystem, today we celebrate giant strides in the efforts to eradicate poverty. I must remember efforts by our comrades and grand handlers who have struggled to make sure that this menace called poverty is brought to her knees in Nigeria. Barrister Donald Olorokaede Donald came up with social exchange market. 8 years ago, he invited some of us to Abuja in Area 10 parade ground to launch out the poverty eradication program to mark the Poverty Eradication Program Day. It was at the verge of that program, while we were in that program, that we heard that the Economic and Financial Crime Commission were in his office at Utako, ravaging his office and carted away with important documents and systems. We stayed in the parade ground from morning till late afternoon when the news filtered in. And since exactly 8 years ago, the struggle to eradicate poverty in Nigeria has continued. After SEM went into struggle with the commission, Bishop Cyril, popularly known as Elomama, came on board as the president of TEPACOM. The consultant was Professor Isong and Professor Akanta with Barrister Ashogbon, Ngozi, Mrs. Elizabeth of Ishiba, were all putting their heads together to see how they can fight this monster called poverty. In TEPACOM, we continued voice note after voice note, write up after write up. We ended up in THEOBART Global Foundation, where Reverend Bartholomew Agbechono became the voice of the voiceless and the voice of antagonism to those he feared threatened to the program. CEOs, ladies and gentlemen, I believe it was all to fight against this menace called poverty. In TEPACOM, I must recognize now the silent voice of Comrade Kingsley Udoguwan, who formed the All Grand Pressure Group, who were talking for the masses. It was all in the name of fighting poverty. Then we have Comrade Peter George, alias Newman, who came on board to become a voice of the voiceless in grand ecosystem, addressing the masses on the programs of the THEOBART Global Foundation. In their team, they did well to give us information and to make sure that poverty is eradicated in Nigeria. Well, he's a human being. He also went for greener pastures. And Comrade Abdulrazak Yakub was unanimously voted in a pressure group to become the president of All Grand Pressure Group of Nigeria, which was a formidable force to fight against poverty. They discovered the channel which THEOBART Global Foundation was running through will not give us the desired results. Of course, the aim is to fight poverty and bring succor to the masses. They also transcended from fighters of fake grants to handle it by themselves. Of course, their efforts are still ongoing. They've not been able to deliver their little contributions to fight this menace called poverty. I want to also recognize Admi Ellis, who was a voice, Jennifer Isaac Atalakba, who was a voice, Admin Moses, who was a voice, and all the voices that contributed in Grand Ecosystem. Mr. Shalom also contributed immensely in educating Nigerians on the program of grants in Nigeria. Actually, I came to the knowledge of grants in Nigeria during the coordinating minister of finance, Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, on a television program, Tuesday Live, 17 years ago. In that program, Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala admonished Nigerians that there are deposits of finances in the Central Bank of Nigeria they can access to boost the economy. Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala stressed in that program that Nigerians are free to access funds which are lying dormant at the Apex Bank. I was shocked at that revelation, but it was true. So I think in this new era, hearing our name as one of those people who is encouraging the disbursement of grants in Nigeria is not out of place. Having been the Director General of the World Trade Center in the United States and in the United Nations, she knows the financial implications and the need to fight poverty through these available grants. Of course, the program of grants emanated and descended from THEOBART Global Foundation, who was turbulent at that moment. May I also recognize and acknowledge the contributions of Dr. Nelson Ogbomedia, whom I term to be the wisest CEO in Grand Ecosystem. I may not tell you what he did for me to call him the wisest, but those of you in Grand Ecosystem, you know what happened in 2022. Between the face off of Dr. Nelson Ogbomedia and the THEOBART Global Foundation, I see him as the most proactive CEO in Grand Ecosystem. I see him as the wisest of all CEOs in Grand Ecosystem in Nigeria. If I'm to give award as of the most proactive CEO, I will not mention or nominate any other one else than Nelson Ogbomedia. The fight against poverty continues until we're in the era where promoters of grants, a man like Mr. Etim Osim, began to promote the United African Alliance Grant, UAG, with the help of Pastor Tochukwu, who created a great awareness that we can fight poverty through the grant UAS. This continued. All CEO turned after a while to join the fight against this poverty through UAG until it came to a time that all CEO will be verified in Abuja in October 2023 by Professor Apostle Ken Wakama, and then the officials of UAS, Mr. Ephraim Ato Tengu, and Mr. Lawrence, who were the representative of UAS, came into play. It was then the accolade to UAG was made manifest. All of us knew that the grant we are pursuing is UAG UAS grant, all in quest to fight the giant poverty. Of course, so many waters pass under the bridge. Gradually, UAG was fizzled out to concentrate on sanctuary word multipurpose cooperative. This shift was tactical, so much that not every person in Grand Ecosystem was aware of the tactical shift from UAG, UAS grants into sanctuary words programs. May I inform Grand Ecosystem that it's not only UAS funds that are available for disbursement. If you have a deep understanding of what goes on in Grand Ecosystem, you will know that it's not only the UAS funds that are available for disbursement, as revealed by Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala in her program, that there are many grants dormant in the Apex Bank. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, in Grand Ecosystem, the continuous usage of US UAG funds may not be correct. From my findings, let us narrow it down to grants that Sanctuary Word is going to disburse. Ask yourself, why did we move away from UAG to Sanctuary Words? I may not go into details. Those who still head to that nomenclature, UAG, US funds, may definitely come out to tell you that it is not true. There is no funds because UAG, US funds is not ready. I must affirm to that statement that indeed, US, UAG funds is not ready for disbursement. I'm talking authoritatively because I've heard from the source. So, Grand Ecosystem, we must not be confused by those who were close to Apostle Ken, who knew the program of US UAG grant that was going to be disbursed. We might not know everything that transpired in the Grand Ecosystem, but we will know just what God has helped the grand handler to reveal to us. By the statement of Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, which I heard her myself on the television, I believe that there was a movement from the US UAG grant into other dominant grants at the Apex Bank for disbursement. Therefore, the voice note of my comrade, Chief Akogun, should be taken in that perspective. He's not totally wrong, but he may not be totally correct. Ladies and gentlemen in Grand Ecosystem, I celebrate all stakeholders. I celebrate all CEOs. I celebrate the Sanctuary Wealth Multipurpose Organization who have held on to the pursuit of grants and disbursement to fight poverty in Nigeria. As I have briefly analyzed to you the reason for some of the voice notes that are currently going on, Don't be discouraged. The international community, the United Nations Day of Eradication Poverty will be celebrated in grand style. I hope and believe that as we celebrate this day, God will bring every expectation of Nigeria and Nigerians into play. And at the end, we'll fight this giant called poverty, which has been eating us up, not just us alone, but the entire Africans. God bless all CEOs. God bless Nigerians. God bless subscribers. Calm down as we await our celebration of the World Poverty Eradication Day in a grand style. Thank you and God bless you. My name remains Reverend Moses from Abuja. Good morning.